A across.
In the old days of Ingo Swann's training program, remote viewers used map coordinates to start their sessions. But it was eventually found that random numbers worked just as well, or even no numbers at all. The idea seemed to be that at some deep level, the remote viewer knew what the assigned target was, without ever having been told. Things like map coordinates or random numbers were merely rituals. Here I have asked Mel Riley to remote view a target selected arbitrarily just before the session. All I have told him is that it is a location at some particular date. As far as he knows, it could be anywhere, at any time.
Dome-like.
Give me some textures.
Rough. Hard. Sandy. Dry. Arid.
Temperatures.
Dry. Dusty. Hot.
Sounds.
Is this rushing sound?
Okay, can you quickly give me some stage 4s? Some AIs and EIs.
EIs. Panic. Fear. Confusion. Dread. Spewing forth just roiling and rolling clouds of ash. Hot. Choking.
The target was a nuclear test at Bikini Atoll in July of 1946.
Clouds of ash. Hot. Choking. Panic. Fear. Confusion. Dread.
Riley's session wasn't perfect. As often happens in remote viewing, he described some of the basic elements of the target accurately, but failed when it came to a broader description of what he was perceiving.
AOL break like a volcano.
Still, one has to remember that remote viewing is just one piece of the intelligence puzzle. If an analyst in Washington is expecting to find something at a target site, he may see it clearly in the remote viewer's data, even if the remote viewer himself doesn't see it. In this session, for example, the target is a particular missile silo at Warren Air Force Base in Wyoming. Riley thinks he is describing a skyscraper, but an analyst might notice instead the shape of an MX missile.
Hi, how are you?
Just fine.
Okay.
I couldn't get this close to the story of remote viewing without trying it myself, and I did train for several weeks with Ingo Swann, learning the techniques he had used and had trained others in a decade before. Hard, rising,
Correct.
over, down,
Correct.
B, don't know, stage 2s, blue, white,
Correct. Correct.
brown,
Correct.
warm,
Correct.
smell
Correct.
of minerals,
Correct.
sulfur. Sometimes, as in this training type session with Swann, I used map coordinates and got constant feedback throughout the session. On other occasions, I had no map coordinates and no monitor to give me feedback, and thus was totally blinded to the target. On the whole, my data were full of inaccuracies, but I described the targets well enough, and often enough, to convince myself anyway, that a remote viewing was not just some delusion. Rising,
Correct.
steam,
Correct.
vapor,
Correct.
water.
Correct. I'm going to ask you to review your data.
There's white, there's motion, there's falling, there's crusted stuff, hard crusted stuff, there's smell of minerals, sulfur, water, trickling and hissing noises. This has all the signs of some kind of hot springs. Okay, well, I just was going to do an AOL, which is geyser.
Okay. We'll end.
Old faithful.
perfect session.
There were even times when I did so well, I began to think I could make it to the big leagues myself.